Welcome to John Markman's Disrupt System, the new all-weather way to make money in the stock market by harnessing the same kind of powerful technology used to forecast the weather. John Markman is a leading tech columnist at Forbes. He served as the portfolio manager of America's most pioneering quantitative hedge fund. He's the holder of 2 major patents, and he wrote the first ever book on internet investing. His followers have seen huge gains from technology stocks, including 2,193% on F5 Networks, 3,098% on Balchem, nearly 3,500% on Core Labs, and more. And had you followed his all-weather ETF strategy, you could have already turned $40,000 into $2.19 million. His discovery works in roaring bull markets. It works in sideways gyrating markets, and it keeps generating steady gains even through gut-wrenching downturns. John, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Martin. Glad to be here with you.
Yeah, I mean, even though we're 3,000 miles away and 3 time zones apart.
Well, that's not a problem. What is a problem is what I want to talk about today.
Which is?
The fact that most investors today don't have a systematic way of investing.
And even if they do, it only works when the market's going up, right?
Well, mine has proven effective in all market conditions.
You began working on your Disrupt system inside one of the most powerful tech companies on earth. You'll tell us how that happened today, right?
Sure.
Also in our interview here today, please be sure to explain how the early prototype of your system earned you your first U.S. patent and revolutionized online stock forecasting. And we want to know how to use it to profit from major tech trends like 5G wireless, artificial intelligence, the digitization of business, and more, all the things you've been telling me about.
Okay, I'll cover all of that and more. And I'll give you the name of a stock that's going to lead in the single most promising industry of the market today. But first, I think it's important that you fully understand Disrupt. This is a system that we'll be using to identify stocks poised to dominate the sector for years to come.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me about Disrupt.
Well, I began work on Disrupt inside one of the largest and most secretive tech firms on earth. This company spends more than $14 billion a year on R&D alone. It's valued at more than $1 trillion. It's minted 3 billionaires and over 12,000 millionaires, including yours truly.
Oh, you're talking about Microsoft, right?
Yep, Microsoft, under the leadership of Bill Gates. They recruited me to develop a whole new way to make money from stocks.
Right.
Our mission was to combine the latest in mathematics, economic psychology, and big data streams to create a new super tool that folks could use online to buy stocks. We began researching complete secrecy at Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, Washington. We spent a small fortune on research and countless 80-hour work weeks with a crack team of investment scientists. And we finally achieved a breakthrough. It was the world's first computer-driven stock picking model developed by a major tech company.
And that's what helped earn you the first of 2 major Microsoft patents, right?
Yep, here it is. U.S. Patent 7219077, System and Method for Creating Model Investment Portfolios. For the first time, investors could now use our Microsoft technology to screen and pick stocks online. We called that system Stock Scouter. I was elated with our initial success, of course, but then I realized something remarkable. With a few enhancements, it would be possible to turn the stock picking technology into a virtual money machine. They pinpoint stocks poised to rise, not just giving you a double or triple digit gain, but also helping to book 10x gains and more.
Look, you've been around the block at least a few times, right, John? I mean, you've been on CNBC pretty frequently. You've written a tech investing column for Forbes. You've done interviews like the one you're doing now with me.
I've also written 5 books.
What was the first book you wrote?
Online Investing in 1999. First book about online investing.
So that was the first time anyone had a chance to learn how to invest online before everyone just called their broker?
Exactly.
And you're on Barron's, you're on Yahoo Finance. It seems you've never talked about Disrupt before.
No, I talk about major tech trends and where tech stocks are going. But this is the first time I talk about how I know which tech trend is going to dominate, how I know which stocks are going to go up the most.
You don't know for sure, though, right?
Well, no, I don't know for sure, but I know it with a high level of confidence.
Okay, so what's the secret behind your disrupt investing system and how can it make you a lot of money with 5G?
It's also
Okay,
artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, mobile computing, big data. They all tie together. They're all part of an integrated complex of new technologies.
but how do you apply disrupt to that big trend?
Disrupt forecasts the market using the same computer technology that the US military uses to forecast the weather. You look outside and see a storm brewing, right? But you
Yeah.
can't tell whether the storm is going to continue into tomorrow and beyond.
Okay, so what you mean is it could be an isolated event, come and gone in an hour, or it could be the beginning of a 2-week hurricane.
Right. Likewise, you might see a stock soaring today, but you
Mhm.
couldn't tell whether that's part of a long-term trend or a one-day event. But
Right,
what if you could pull up the forecast for that stock on your computer, just like pulling up a weather forecast for your city? You could see right away if the stock rise is temporary or sustainable, and
hmm
whether the stock is where the stock is headed next.
right,
That could allow you to do two things. Number one, buy on the cheap,
right.
and
And when to sell, right?
not really. No, see when to ride the stock to huge long-term gains, and
Okay.
then when to sell.
Oh, I got it.
That's what
Okay.
that's what Disrupt does for us, and it does it with unprecedented accuracy. With my system, if you can read tomorrow's weather forecast online, you can track where stocks are likely headed over the next 24 hours, 48 hours, and far beyond.
Beyond is what I would like. 24 or 48 hours isn't a big deal for me, but I'd like to know where it's going
Well,
beyond.
we say 24 to 48 hours, but it could be 24 weeks and 48 weeks, or it could be 24 years and 48 years.
Okay. Depends on which time horizon your model is focused on, right?
Exactly. I would love to own a stock for 48 years.
So would I.
You can make money from that information systematically again and again.
Okay, so how much money are we talking about here?
Well, there are no guarantees in the markets, of course,
Right.
but I've prepared a series of charts, and I'd like to show you some extraordinary case studies. My first case study involves a pharma tech company called Perrigo. The
Ah,
stock was trading around 15 bucks, and it had just suffered a pullback.
yeah.
To most folks, it looked like Perrigo is headed for stormy weather. But reading the disrupt forecast would have shown you the truth. The pullback was just an isolated thunderstorm. Disrupt told me the next week and beyond, the stock would be headed for some very, very sunny climbs. And sure enough, take a look at what happened. Perrigo skyrocketed 1,447%. Not bad, huh?
Not bad. Are you kidding? That's enough to multiply your investment 15 times over, but that's just one stock, John.
No, this is not just about one stock. This is what's so powerful about this. My disrupt system allows us to read the forecast for any stock. And that means not just going for an outsized gain here or there, but consistent gains time after time.
And before we're done here today, you'll show us how to get your disrupt signals, right?
Oh yeah, on a secure website. And
Okay.
once on the site, you'll be able to get a short list of Disrupt's latest recommendations right away for the first time. Plus, in a moment, I'll be revealing a potential 10-bagger play on 5G.
And when you say 10 bagger, I want to repeat, you mean a stock that goes up tenfold or more.
Exactly, anything over 1,000%.
hmm
And that's really the kind of potential we're looking at here. Finding these kinds of gains is a huge part of what Disrupt was intended to do. It's also what my system has done in the past. For example, using this early version of Disrupt, you could have identified a networking play called F5 networks that most folks have never heard of.
And most folks still haven't heard of, probably.
Yeah, probably not. But with Disrupt, you could have identified a distinct pattern that showed F5 was an online technology pioneer in the early stages of a long-term fundamental uptrend. And you could have seen that the stock had temporarily pulled back, creating an ideal entry point for new buyers.
So what would have happened if you had acted on those findings?
Well, had you acted on these findings, you could have ridden the stock to an incredible 2,193% gain. You could have turned a $5,000 investment into $114,650. And if you had invested $15,000 in this position, you'd be sitting on a remarkable $343,950 today.
Some of our viewers are probably thinking about what you could buy with those $343,000.
You could buy yourself or your spouse a 2019 Ferrari 488 and pay for a month of world-class dining and lodging at America's finest resorts, all thanks to our Disrupt 1.0 system.
Give us some other case studies.
You could have used my Disrupt system to identify a little-known company called Balchem. Balchem was riding a global trend in food technology. It was creating new technology to safely preserve foods while also making them taste better. And thanks to our Disrupt system, with this stock, you could have booked gains of 3,100%. That turns $5,000 into $159,900. But then my team and I continued to refine our model, adding more predictive power. For example, you could have also used Disrupt to pinpoint a company called Core Labs, and you could have bought the stock at the ideal time, riding Core Labs to an eye-popping 3,974% gain. You could have turned $5,000 into $203,700. But wait, it gets better.
Okay.
Next, our model pinpointed a technology consulting company by the name of Cognizant. It was just as the stock began its historic rocket ride of 4,185%. With this one stock, you could have turned $5,000 into $214,250, minus taxes and commissions, of course.
You know, I think extraordinary gains are great, but you know, I really appreciate you showing these to us, John. But personally, I don't count on windfalls, and I don't think our readers should either. What everyone needs is a system that can kick out a steady stream of winners, week after week, month after month. Plus, one more thing, I think everyone needs to always remember that no matter how good a system might be, there are always going to be some losers along the way, and you absolutely have to keep those losers small, right?
Oh, I totally agree. You know, but keep one thing in mind. This was just the prototype version of Disrupt. We call it Disrupt 1.0. At that point, I left Microsoft and I set out to develop the next iteration of the system, which I call Disrupt 2.0. That's when I added the technology based on the weather forecasting. And I'm sure you've seen the weather on TV where they show storm tracking. You know?
Right, I've seen it. Yeah, of course.
You can clearly see exactly where our storm is headed.
Yes.
You can even see where it will likely to be in 12 hours from now, 24 hours from now, even days from now.
And usually those forecasts are right, usually.
Usually, you know, well, as we were developing our Disrupt system, we realized that the weather and the markets have a lot in common.
Sure.
They're both complex, dynamic systems, and neither moves in a straight line.
And the basic idea was what?
Well, the idea was that if they could tell us where a hurricane was headed with such accuracy, maybe that technology could help us tell the direction of stocks.
The direction of stocks and weather are probably equally complex, right? It's not like one is more complex than the other.
Exactly.
So you wanted to add that same technology to your Disrupt system, is that it?
Exactly. So my research quickly led to a man named Edward Lorenz. You ever heard of him?
Yes, I have.
Lorenz was an MIT scientist and meteorologist, and he pioneered the use of computers to predict the weather. In 1961, he ran a series of equations through a computer, hoping to create super accurate weather forecasts.
Did that work?
His models indicated something remarkable. Weather was far too complex to be measured with regular or linear math.
Well, that's the only kind of math I've ever learned. So what did Lorenz do with that?
Well, what he did is he developed a whole new kind of math, tailor-made to measure complex systems like the weather. He called it nonlinear chaos math.
Like the weather or like the market, right?
Exactly, and it proved so powerful that the U.S. Navy has adopted it for predicting the path of dangerous storms at sea.
How does it actually do that?
I'm not going to give you a lesson in chaos math right now, but I can say that it's when Wall Street analysts talk about the market, what are they really referring to? Most times they will reference an index like the S&P 500, and
or
they'll
the
point to a
Dow.
linear. Exactly, and they'll also point to a linear chart of the S&P. So if you zoomed in, you'd see a series of points connected by lines. However, suppose you charted that same market using Lorenz's nonlinear math. Then you wouldn't be using a single line or individual points. Instead, you'd see something like these curves.
Looks kind of complex to me. I don't know.
It is complex, but it reflects the true nature of the market and how it moves in real, flowing time. Lorenz used this new math to revolutionize weather forecasting. It now powers the weather tracking systems of the U.S. Navy, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Air Force, and NOAA.
You know, this is really looks complicated, but it's also very fascinating that you could port this technology over to the markets, and so it also helps power your Disrupt system, right?
Yeah, you know, and with amazing results. You know, you see the market, like the weather, it doesn't move in a straight line. And it's influenced by countless forces operating 24/7, some seen and some unseen. The results of this discovery have been nothing short of astonishing. Not only did the system continue to kick out 10 baggers, it also started filling in the gaps between those huge windfalls with a steady stream of double and triple digit winners along the way. This breakthrough has changed my investment life, and it can do the same for you.
But you're still talking about Disrupt, right? What does exactly Disrupt stand for?
Disrupt stands for Data-Based Intelligent Signals Revealing Ultra-Profitable Trades.
And you're talking about Disrupt 1.0, or what are you talking about right now?
No, we're talking about Disrupt 2.0.
2.0.
Yes, behind the scenes.